Joining us on World Now to discuss the escalation in the Middle East is the President Emeritus Corporate Council on Africa, Stephen Hayes. Good to have you join us on World Now. Well, it's been more than 10 months now of hostilities between Israel and Hamas. Are you worried that the initial fear of this expanding to regional war seems to be gradually happening?
Well, I think that threat is continuing, of course. I think there are some positive signs. There's some negative signs. The most negative sign, I think, right now is that Hamas has declined the ceasefire offer. And so I think that's going to continue. That, of course, means that Hezbollah will continue some attacks on Israel, and I say that not out of any foresight, but simply it's what the leader of Hezbollah, Nasrallah, has said will happen. And as long as there is no ceasefire, there will be a continuing attack from Hezbollah. This weekend's attacks were a little greater than, in fact, much greater than the past, but they've also settled down, at least for now.
You've spoken about the peace talks in Cairo making no breakthroughs, but the U.S. says it is actually working to avoid any further escalation. How feasible, do you see this happen?
Well, the United States and Americans are known for optimism. Sometimes it's a little overly optimistic. And I think that it's going to be very, very difficult to achieve a level of peace. Eventually, you're going to have to, but right now, I think it's going to be very, very difficult. I think it's accurate for the U.S. Administration to say they're working actively behind the scenes. I'm pretty sure there's a dialogue, direct or indirect, going on with Iran as well, and the Iranian role is critical. Hezbollah is largely controlled, maybe it's too strong of a word, but subservient to Iran. The leader of Hezbollah, Nasrallah, is a devotee of the Iran leadership and has been part of the process for, I think, since 1975 when he joined Hezbollah. So that dialogue behind the scenes is going to be very, very important. There is much going on, but again, a lot of movement doesn't indicate much success. It's still, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to find that ceasefire. I think getting the hostages out is going to be also a challenge. We don't know how many are still alive. Some skepticism that it's a large number, or the original number of that was cited as still living, 70, I think, approximately. And I think that's going to be another issue that's going to be a point of ignition if that isn't solved soon.
All right. And now that Hezbollah seems actively involved in these hostilities, saying that its retaliatory attack at this time has been completed and that it is assessing its impact. How do you see, this turn out? Because also Israel says what happened on Sunday is not the end.
Well, of course, it's not the end. That's an easy statement. It's going to continue. The eye for an eye mentality of the Middle East is going to continue. It's just an eternal problem there. I think that there's going to be greater violence along the border. Certainly increased. How great is going to determine how much the war is going to be affected. The rest of Lebanon doesn't want to be drawn into a war, but in fact, if Israel were to invade Lebanon, then they are part of that war as well. And if that happens, then it does become more of a regional as war. There's just so many different points that could be ignited almost instantly that would bring this into a regional war. And a regional war, I think, would have implications far greater than the region, of course.
All right. But how does the world convince parties in this conflict to give peace a chance? And what would peace mean in the real sense of the word?
Well, I think it's fairly clear that Hamas and Israel, particularly Prime Minister Netanyahu, isn't going to listen to the rest of the world. They've got their own separate agendas. I'm not convinced either one really wants to cease fire, but what peace would look like in the immediate future would be that we'd be able to help the population of Gaza. The fact is, again, tens of thousands have already died. I think the number is probably going to be much greater than that. Hunger, disease, everything else is still developing and growing. So I think peace would look at least like access to food, access to medicine, developing housing again would be a picture of somewhat a picture of peace. I think otherwise it's going to be a long-term struggle in the Middle East.
President Emeritus, Corporate Counsel on Africa, Stephen Hayes, thank you for talking to us on World Now.
Thank you. My privilege.
Now, in Northern Africa, Tunisian President Kais Saied